Welcome back again. Eddy 3D. Well, I set this train off rolling, so I need to also follow up. Of course, I'm also curious what we can do now and how it compares with Butterfly CFD. And that's why we'll look at it. We first will look at the template files, just to get an overview of what Eddy 3D can do. And then, so this will be probably 2 videos, just to look at what's already available. And then we will look how we can dive a bit deeper into the individual aspects. All right, sounds good. Let's jump in. All right, 2 new legends joined the channel. One is Hyunuk Kim, who is crafting wild design experiences over on his own channel. And it's definitely worth checking out if you are into design. That definitely pushes the boundary. It looks like you started, Kim. I call you Kim if that is okay for you. Seems like you started at the AA. Are you still in London? If you ever want to catch up, I'm always up for a coffee. And the other guy, Francesco Lomeo, not sure. You tell me. It's more of a curator at the moment with music playlists and some other stuff which gives a good insight in his tastes and interests. Welcome both, and thanks a lot for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, drop me a line. And now let's jump into Eddy 3D. Let's start here. This is absolutely key. You need to install the right Blue CFD Core system. I cannot say it often enough. This is the 99% of the questions I get when it doesn't work. It's the wrong installation of Blue CFD Core. I have installed Blue CFD Core 2020. That will not work with Butterfly CFD, although you can run different versions on your computer. Now you can check out the Eddy 3D website. Eddy, just go to www.eddy3d.com, download, and there you have all the change logs and all the versions and exact description of what they are for and how they work with which Rhino version, for example. So the latest version only works with Rhino 8 and it requires the Blue Core CFD 2020 version. But there are older ones, and when you sign up for the download, then they send you a link with all the previous versions as well. All right. When you have installed Eddy 3D, you also need to install Blue CFD Core, and you can run different versions, but what is the most important thing is that you create an environment. And that's why we have this Blue CFD Core 2020 terminal here. If you double click, it will set up an environment for OpenFOAM 8. And it says here, setting environment for OpenFOAM 8, blah, 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 blah. And then environment is now ready. Notes. You can change between installed versions by running off menu, and you can change to other predefined versions by running off menu new. So there is ways to have different versions installed that allows you to switch between Eddy 3D and the Butterfly CFD if you need that. I don't, and I have just installed Blue CFD Core. I ran the environment and now I'm ready. I don't need to run my Rhino in admin mode, which is great. I just can double click Rhino and that's fine. All right, just one thing before we go into Grasshopper. This is another thing where a lot of people miss the point. The units are absolutely key in that software. So that means any wind analysis, most wind analysis measure wind in meter per second. And that's why your units should be meters. Your units should be meters. Any other units might cause issues. So don't run in millimeters. It will just create issues. And if you use the imperial system, probably there's a way to change to feet per second. Or you can also use the meters, the metric system, and then convert whatever comes out of your whatever the result is. I stay in meter, and then we go into Grasshopper. All right, let's say you have installed the correct Eddy 3D version. You have installed the right Blue CFD Core version, and you're running Rhino 8 or 7. now we can start with Eddy 3D. In this video, I only want to go through and talk about what Eddy 3D can do based on the templates, the ready-made templates. I will explain you right away what that is. And then we probably will look at the outdoor section first, and then the second video will be about the indoor stuff. And there are a few other things I want to discuss. That should give you an overview, and then we can jump into more specialized deep dives based on real or realistic scenarios. Now, what's really cool in Eddy 3D is it provides templates. There are not a lot of third-party plugins which provides templates. So this is great stuff. So you can just go in here, templates, just click on this and drag it here. And now we have a directory, right click, templates, and we can just click on these and it will already give you a snippet of a script or a full script, really. We don't need to look at the first two. We can open it. Let's open it. The first one is just a probe plane, which you can generate with native native Grasshopper tools. There's nothing special about it. So that's super handy. Then let's see, what else do we have? Wind direction. These are just really lists and list generators with different angles, wind direction angles. Again, something you could generate with all the native Grasshopper tools. And then we have visualize wind vectors. This is really just to get whatever the output is and visualize it on your screen. With all these three, we cannot run a wind analysis yet, but let's see what's next. So the simple wind analysis. We just click it and it already gives you a full script. It's fantastic, and it's easily grouped together. So you have basically shows the workflow. You need to input your geometry. You can choose a wind direction. It simulates your domain, and then it runs the simulation, actually mesh and simulation, and then you generate your probing points, and then you visualize it, display wind vectors. And my favorite tool is to clean that up with this button here. All right, so let's look at this a bit. You can see the wind direction here, but you need to be careful because whatever you change here, it will be written into this folder. So if you check out the folder, it was basically created a new folder for this with a new OpenFOAM file, and where I stopped with 55. So it very quickly fills up your computer. So you need to be careful what you do. You just need to make sure you know that, because then you can always clean out or delete that folder if you don't need it anymore. But it collects all the data it generates. Just to see the orientation, now we have 55-degree angle. If I go here on preview, you can actually see the wind tunnel plus the wind direction arrow. Okay, gonna hide this again, and then now we can run our run mesh. What's great here is that a lot of the simulation is already happening in here, and we don't need to worry too much about writing and running too many different things before we can actually do the simulation. Here's just 2 buttons, which is really great. So they streamlined the whole process quite a lot. The only thing is that you lose a bit track of what's possible, because again, it's an interface for OpenFOAM. Now anyway, let's run this. Creating the mesh first. I assume this is equivalent to the block mesh and snappy hex mesh in Butterfly. Yeah, we cannot see anything yet, but this now is already orange. There was red before. Now we can run the simulation. We can already run the simulation. And I always make this mistake now that I didn't check the time, the iterations. Now this is important, the iterations. How often it repeats that analysis until to fine tune and become more precise over time. So it runs 1,400 times. We can change that because at the moment we just want to test it out. So I want to go here and just type 50, and it should only go to 50 now, hopefully. Okay, that worked. So I was able to change that on the spot. And then we have a window where we can look at the residuals. And I will explain what that means in another video, but you have But for example, you have UX, UY, and UZ relates to the wind direction. P, for example, relates to the pressure, but we can look at that in another video. Now, we still cannot see anything here, but we'll see very, very soon. Now, what's important to say here, before we run this, I don't know how that's called, probing, what's really happening is that OpenFOAM has ran its calculation in the wind tunnel based on the setting and grading inside. It chops the whole thing in segments, in cells, and each cell will be tested. It's just how I imagine it. The probing basically just makes something visible which is already calculated. And as we said before, the U is related to the wind direction. U is basically the velocity in meter per second, and that's our output. And we can go here and run this, and it's already done. What's very interesting is it creates this weird clipping, but this seems like is a Rhino thing. If I go here on render viewport, it actually shows it in total. Very strange. Not sure why that is, but yeah, that's how that works. Now there's a few other things. Actually, what you see here, the vectors are these ones. These are the vectors, the output. And the faster the vector, the faster the probe or the wind at that probe point, the more warmer the color. So here the maximum is maximum. Not sure if they have red somewhere, but it's definitely here in the orange, and blue is just the least fast wind. Now you can set up an upper limit or lower limit. You can also change the width. There's another thing. What is ParaView? ParaView, you can open this whole thing, this model, because it's written as OpenFOAM model. You can open that in ParaView. ParaView is a standalone tool, the one here, for wind analysis. You can actually do wind analysis with that tool, and you don't need Rhino for that. But it's a bit, user interface is hard. You can have a look, just open it, press here, open it, and you will see. Then we have, and this is my favorite tool, with that you can clean everything. Now, if you want to see the actual numbers, the wind speed, you can go into here and you will see the wind speeds here. And I can see that a few problems which they haven't really solved, but that's something I solved, and maybe I can make a better script. Nevertheless, they solved somehow in here. That's also fine. You can do that, but I actually have a better method. Don't worry Don't worry if you don't understand what I'm talking about. I will explain in the next video. All right, that's this. This is the simple wind study. Pretty straightforward. If you have installed everything correctly, then it should work. You shouldn't have any problem. If you do, then I'm not sure what's happening. Okay, we don't even need to look into here yet. That's great. Let's check out the next one. Let's go a bit quicker. Simple wind analysis with terrain. Okay, again, it created this it generated this folder for sure. So if I go here, yes. So as soon as you create this script, it creates a folder and already writes stuff in here. Just for you to check properties, how big is that? Just a simple wind analysis now wrote 300 megabyte onto my computer. So just be cautious, especially if you run different angles. Now here is something interesting. So we have not just the building model, we also have a terrain model in here. And terrains seems like they are differently handled. And you can see there's also a tree slot. We get to that very soon. But let's have a look at how that looks like. So we have this, interesting. I mean, in my world, I would probably give it a nice surface, something like this. It's a bit shiny, but yeah, why not? We can take it out again. Now this time I will already change the iterations to 50. Okay, and then we can run the simulation. To run the mesh, we create the mesh first. And the mesh it's not just the building, the mesh. It's the whole case, the whole wind tunnel becomes one mesh object. So this ran fairly quick, and we can already run the simulation. That takes a bit more time. I think it's because of the terrain. So I'll get back to you when it's done. All right, that ran. Again, we can have a look at this. It doesn't tell you yet much, but what's way more interesting is the probes. I'm not sure why they did this. That seems a bit off. Let's do this. We can go through this a bit more in detail, everything. But yeah, what's cool is that here the arrows, basically the probes were placed onto the surface and then offset. So they were projected first on the probe points were projected onto the terrain and then just offset for 2 meters. So they are hovering above. Now let's check something here. I want to see what they didn't do here. Again, you can of course open that in ParaView and you can clean it if you want to rerun it again with another model. What I like to do here with my probe points is to actually color them. Oh, sorry, scale them. I want to have the option to scale them so I can have a better look. Oh no, sorry, that was not what I meant. You can use just a multiplication, get my vectors here and put this in here, and then I have a slider. Oops. And of course I want to have here a float point. Yeah, you can see it creates a bit of a wind tunnel effect. It has some wind tunnel effect here on these areas. But yeah, it's cool to have the option of the terrain, especially the idea that you can follow the terrain with your probe points. That shows that actually the calculation is done on a big three-dimensional box. It's like, imagine a grid, a three-dimensional grid, and all these probes in each cell of that grid tested. So there's a lot of information. What we actually do here by probe points and probing is to just make visible what's already calculated. Now, yeah, that looks pretty cool. All right, so next, let's check out the next thing. And I want to have a very quick look into this. How big is that folder now? Properties. Yeah, 600 megabyte. So if you ever wonder why your computer is so slow, then you know. Okay, let's run this simple wind analysis with trees. That's also something we didn't had in Butterfly CFD. Interestingly, they don't show the trees here, but I can maybe just make them visible for you. Again, trees can be just simple objects. It's simple volumes. What's important is that they're not detailed tree models. They are massings, and the massing has a certain porosity where wind can actually go through with a certain factor, you know. So, and that factor is determined by the type here. So you can have your geometry. The type is dense, and then you have another type with its medium, and another type with its dense. I guess you can have. Yeah, there's some description here. Either pass three types as coarse, medium, or dense, or pass multiple string that references the D and F coefficients for the Darcy-Forchheimer model. Darcy-Forchheimer model with the example below. All right, again, we can go through that in more detail. What does that mean? And maybe research a bit about the right density. What does it mean actually, the density, and how does this relate to real trees? Again, it creates our folder, and this time we have to run 3 buttons: the run mesh, make trees, and then run the simulation. Let's do that. Let's see. Again, I will get back to you when I'm ready. Okay, so that ran. Interestingly, now this time we see the probe points, or the points, the probe points. I'm not sure why. Oh, I think here, because it's visible here, maybe. No. Let's hide this as well, maybe. Not sure why, but yeah, let's make trees. Let's make trees. That shouldn't take too long, hopefully. But they have to run separately because they have different properties than the buildings. The buildings are solid. The trees are, porous. Wind can go through these volumes. 3, 9. I'm not sure how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're almost there, I guess. So that should be ready. Now I'm curious if everything worked. I'm not sure why it shows these probe points, but let's run this so we can examine. Okay, see. Not sure why that didn't work. I delete this just to make sure. I'm gonna take this and I'll try to redo that whole thing. Trees. It works. I used it before, but I'm not sure why it doesn't work now. Let's see if it wrote the folder. Yeah. We can hide this. We can hide this as well. I go here on 50 and oh, I think I know. I think it might needs a bit more here. All right, I'm gonna run 100 iterations. Okay, let's see. Another time. This is the long stuff. Oh no, this is the trees. The trees. Okay. Okay, that worked. Now, the moment of truth. Let's see. Again, this will take a while, I think. Okay, still faster than I thought. Let's have a look. So this ran. It should be all visible. Strangely, this is on. We can turn this off. And we need to run the probe function. Yes, now it worked. Finally, yeah. In that case, instead of having showing the vectors, we can show the vectors as well, of course. The Eddy 3D team want to showcase another way to do that by just coloring the mesh. It's another valid way to do that, of course. And you have again the option to go into ParaView or clean the result. I like to see the vectors actually. And then you could use my trick by scaling the vectors again. All right. I mean, this gives us actually a bit more idea of what you could do with OpenFOAM when we would compare that with Butterfly CFD. In Butterfly CFD, we didn't have the option to put a tree. That's something new. Let's check out this one, the annual wind analysis, and I think that's it for this video. Then in the next one we can look at the indoor solutions. Super excited. Here are again 3 models. Don't know why they have it like this. Not sure, but we'll see, of course, how that works. They work here with a weather data. That's quite interesting. Not sure why it says save folder is not valid. Save to should actually work. Yeah, I'm not sure. So if it already gives an error, let's see what that means. Oh, interesting. So here they use a different domain. It's nice that they showcase, you know, the different ways on how you could set up your domain or your wind tunnel. No trees this time. Charge account. Notification email. Okay, this is the guy who put this together, as it seems. And we can have our output folder. Maybe let's have a look what it says here. Annual wind analysis. And it's supposed to, let's see, this is supposed to be save to annual wind analysis. Okay. Now, if we want to use, because this is also E+ weather data, we could use Ladybug and have our own folder. If we want that, we could do that actually if we run into problem, but let's test it first and let's see if there's any issue. Okay, let's run the mesh. That should be quicker again, but then because it's a whole year, I'm not sure. It could be a bit tricky. Okay, that worked. Wondering where, oh yeah, these are the different angles it calculates, and then I guess it will create an average between them. All right, let's run a simulation. Oh, no. Again, I don't want to run this like 1,000 times. Let's go here to 50 or maybe 60. Okay, I'll get back to you when it's done because this will take a while. All right, the moment of truth. That sounds very interesting. Let's have a look here. Okay, that residual thing ran as often as the different wind directions, which are here, you know. And okay, so I mean, it's the same procedure. Just wondering how it all works. I guess the results need to be okay. That ran. Let's see how that. So it seems like we have to have. Let's check this out. Enable, and let's see if there's anything in here. No, for whatever reason, there's supposed to be results in here. Yes, there is. That's good. Let's run this, whatever it is. Okay, so there is a problem with the weather data. That's what I already expected. Now, what we could do, because we have, if you have Ladybug installed. Let's have a look if that works. I hoped actually that we don't have to do this and we can look at stuff next time, but we just need this one. We need a toggle and we can open a weather data. Let's see if that works. So there are two ways now. Normally what I would do is just copy it, and that's okay. Now we can place this in here. That worked now for this. Select the hours you would like to process. Select one to process. To process the entire year. If you are working with a temporal object, all existing wind directions. If you're working with a spatial object, it doesn't really make any sense, but I mean, we can try. Set this to 1. Not sure. Save to. Let's check out this. Oh, okay. Maybe I need to do this like that. I need to go in here and okay. Copy as path. Let's do this. Let's see. I think maybe I need to do it like this. So I need to actually unzip the weather data and place it into the folder. It's calculating. I can feel it. Okay, what was that? Let's rerun this. No, the file scheme is not supported. So get rid of this. So it allows only copy as path. Let's try this again. So that seemed to work, but then everything else is not. That is annoying. It's just annoying. So this is something we will look at and see if we can fix this. I don't want to write this guy yet. I'll try to fix it and let's see. Yeah, I have already an idea how to do that, but would have been great if it already works out of the box. That's something I don't get why they do that. But okay, I think it's a good time to stop here. We can look at the other examples a bit later. There's a few things where we actually have to install another third-party plugin. I think for the outdoor comfort that only works. That doesn't work right out of the box. But I'm very intrigued by the indoor cases. So that will come up in the next video. All right, that's for now. Well, I hope you liked this video. I just want to give a shout out to all my members because they support this channel, and without them it would be quite sad. So we have since many months already David Semenison supporting me, 27 months, can you imagine? Scott Northcutt, 24 months. I think I need to have another, like an icon, maybe another color for people who are longer than 1 year on my channel. We have Thum Chun Chun Hao. I hope I pronounce it correctly. 17 months already. The same as Minimalev, 17 months. Klaus Schwegel, 17 months. And then we have Roger Prado, who joined 5 months ago. We have Nagam Ismail, Dr. Nagam Ismail, 2 months ago. And then very recently, Kevin Johnson. Thanks a lot for joining, and Francesco Lomeo, as we mentioned today, and Hunuk Kim. I call you Kim. All right. So if you want to support the channel, please check out my channel membership options. And I also started to create a small shop where I will release older scripts to download in case you have no time to follow my video. Although they are for a fee. I decided to charge a small fee for it because of course it takes time to put this stuff together. I hope you don't mind. At the moment there are only 2 scripts in there, but it will grow over time, and let's see how that goes. I'm curious, and yeah, see you in the next video. Ciao.